Welcome back, everybody. It's Zach here, bringing you guys another fantasy football video. So we go over 5 players that I'd be looking to sell high on ahead of Week 7. These are guys that I think are overperforming a little bit compared to what they should be doing going forward, and I think they're guys that I would really be looking to at least consider trading away. As always, these guys are not specifically guys that I'm just saying you need to give away because obviously every player has some level of value, but these are guys that I think you can get more value out of than what they're going to return to you the rest of the season. So I tried to touch on each position here. I couldn't really come up with a quarterback that I felt like was warranted. Like Caleb Williams came to mind, but I actually think he's going to ascend quite a bit, so I couldn't talk about him. Aaron Rodgers may be the one if people want to buy the Devontae Adams news and think he's going to like return to MVP form. So, but I don't think anybody really has Aaron Rodgers unless you're in like a 2 quarterback league. So tough to find a still high at the quarterback position, but we have every other one coming up here. So buckle in. We got 5 players we'll talk about, and then if you guys do have any specific trade questions or any of that, love helping you guys out there. So just let me know in the comments below, and I'll be sure to give you guys my opinion and hopefully help you guys get some good trades done this week ahead of Week 7. So yeah, that being said, let's get started here. Starting things off with the running back position, I'm going to highlight Najee Harris as a sell high, and he finally had an awesome game. He actually looked really good this last week, had an awesome 36-yard run, made a hell of a juke, really laid out like a 5-yard dive to get into the end zone there. So it was a really fun play. Najee Harris finally had a great game, but it's fair to acknowledge that it conveniently came against one of the worst teams in the NFL, playing the Las Vegas Raiders here. And there are reasons to be concerned here. We saw Jaylen Warren return to this backfield, obviously still limited from that hamstring injury, but he's going to work himself back into this rotation. That's just going to or take touches away from Najee Harris. We also know that Cordarrelle Patterson's still been inactive the last couple weeks. Not that it's a huge deal, but Patterson's going to come in and steal a couple touches here and there. That's obviously huge because if those 2 carries go to Patterson instead of Najee Harris, that's a significant chunk of points that you're taking away from Najee Harris over the course of the full season. And the schedule over the back half of the season is incredibly tough. They have to play the Ravens twice, the Bengals twice, the Browns twice. They also have games against the Chiefs and the Eagles over the back half of the season. Like really, really tough schedule setup here for the Steelers, and they're winning a lot of games right now because the easier portion of the schedule is in the first half of the season. But when they play these tougher teams, it's going to be tougher for them to be a reliable weekly winner. And Najee is one of those running backs who's significantly better in games where his team wins, where they can lean on him in the fourth quarter and really use him as their closer. So there are reasons to be concerned about what Najee Harris can do going forward. He's also coming off of a game where he scored a touchdown. He's generally going to be one of the more touchdown-dependent running backs. So this is likely going to be not his best game of the season, but one of like the higher scoring point totals for him. Because he doesn't really have that like high end ceiling. He's not a guy that's going to bust off 280-yard touchdowns in a game. And there is some uncertainty about this Pittsburgh Steelers offense going forward. Reportedly, they're going to give Russell Wilson a shot to start this week. I personally do think that's going to elevate this offense in general. It should especially improve the passing game, but it could take things away from the efficiency in the running game. There'll be a lot less designed quarterback runs here, and we all know how that opens up things for the running backs just a little bit. So Najee Harris, we could see his efficiency come down a little bit here. Maybe a little increase in touchdown upside if Russ does elevate the offense here. But if you can still high off of this really great game, I think it does make sense to at least kick the tires on that right now. Second running back here is going to be DeAndre Swift, and this is mainly because I think you can actually get a ton for him. He's coming off of 3 straight games of being absolutely phenomenal after starting the season being one of the worst running backs in the NFL for 3 weeks in a row. So really tough to know how good DeAndre Swift is. I think he's really matchup dependent, really dependent on just the holes that his offensive line can create for him. And because of that, I'm really concerned about his schedule come the playoffs here. His playoff schedule has games against Minnesota, Detroit, San Francisco, Minnesota again, Detroit again, and Seattle. So Seattle's fantastic. They're one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. So if you get to your fantasy championship with DeAndre Swift, I think you could be a league winner there. But getting there with this schedule is going to be really tough because Minnesota is a fantastic run defense. They're second in terms of giving up the fewest fantasy points to opposing running backs. Detroit has an elite run defense. I know they just lost Aiden Hutchinson, but they've got DJ Reader in the middle. They just extended their other big defensive tackle to a huge deal. He's fantastic. It's really tough to run on this Lions team, and we've seen that the Lions are generally more susceptible to the pass anyway. You're going to have to air it out against the Lions. Swift's going to need to catch a lot of passes to have value there. And then San Francisco is no schmuck either. So that's like 5 straight games against teams that I wouldn't expect big games out of DeAndre Swift, and it's just going to be tough to trust him in your lineup in what should be the most important games of the fantasy season. So if you can get RB1 value for him right now, because I believe he's the RB10 in the season, I think it makes sense to move him just because I don't think he's going to perform any better than what he has so far, and there obviously isn't a lot of room to fall. We saw what the floor was just in the first 3 weeks of the season. So this one hurts me because he was obviously a guy that I was really huge on all offseason. I've been enjoying him lately the last like few weeks or so. But Deontay Johnson is a guy that I think I'm willing to at least consider selling high on. I'm just really concerned about what Bryce Young is going to mean for this offense. They've been vocal about being open to potentially bringing Bryce Young back into this offense at some point, and I do think that's going to happen. I have no idea when it will, but the Panthers are 1-5 right now. It's not like they're playing for being competitive this season. If they want anything, it makes a lot of sense as a team that's going to have a high draft pick next season. You want to see if you can get anything out of this run quarterback, or if you need to look at the quarterback in the next draft there. So I do believe that we will see more Bryce Young over the back half of the season. And even if we don't, the schedule gets really tough here. They get a great matchup against Atlanta in week 7, so no concern there. But after that, you're going to get Denver, New Orleans, the Giants, and the Chiefs. That's 4 straight matchups that I'm not excited about at all. And he's been fantastic, but we know what this offense is like with Bryce Young. He was effectively droppable. He was a really popular drop candidate after the first 2 weeks of the season before they made this quarterback change. So the floor is extremely low. You're hoping that if Bryce Young comes back, maybe he's learned a little bit watching Andy Dalton, and there is that possibility, but I'm not going to believe in Bryce Young coming in and being good for this offense because we've never seen it. So if you can get top 15 wide receiver value for him, for a guy that, if you can get another player that you're not looking at potentially just falling off a cliff because of a midseason quarterback change, I think it's time to consider it, because Deontay Johnson is probably never going to have more value than he does right now. So if you can get equal value, you're just helping avoid a lot of risk in terms of what could happen to this roster going forward. Last wide receiver we'll talk about here is going to be Michael Pittman Jr. And I don't really know what you're getting for Pittman here, but I have him in a league. I have him in one league this season, and I really don't feel comfortable starting him at all, ever. Like, even this week, I was unable to start him because you had Joe Flacco playing, which is great, but you're dealing with a back injury here that is obviously concerning. He caught 3 passes for 36 yards, ended up scoring a touchdown, so he was okay for fantasy, but this is not a guy who's operating as number 1 wide receiver in this offense. Josh Downs is clearly the preferred target there. All the deep, high-value targets are going to Alec Pierce and Adonai Mitchell, mostly Alec Pierce with how well he's been playing. And there's also the looming return of Anthony Richardson, who should be ready to play in week 7. You're going to see significantly less passing volume with Richardson, a lot less efficient passing volume as well. So you're just not going to see Pittman be a guy that's going to rack up a lot of catches. He's not catching the ball downfield, and IR is very much in play for Pittman as a guy who's dealing with a back injury. It sounds like it's just a pain tolerance thing, but it sounds like even though he played this last week, IR is not out of the question. There are a lot of reasons to be concerned about Pittman, and the schedule in the last 4 weeks of the season, absolutely brutal too. You get New England, Denver, Tennessee, and New York. That does not excite me at all. I don't want anything to do with that. You're going to see the Patrick Surtain treatment in the first week of the fantasy playoffs. There's no way you're starting them there. You'll get L'Jarius Sneed in the second week, so you're not starting them there. The Giants are beatable, but it's not super exciting at all. So I just don't know when you're going to feel comfortable starting Michael Pittman going forward. And if you can get a starter for him, he's got name value. He's coming off of a week where he was actually pretty good. So if you can get a legitimate starter for him, I think it makes sense to do that, because I'm never going to feel comfortable putting him in my starting lineup probably the entire rest of the season. And the last player that I'll highlight here is going to be Sam Laporta as the one tight end I'd be looking to sell high on. It's just because the Lions really don't need him. Jameson Williams has pretty clearly leveled up his play and just his ability to be a difference maker for this this Lions offense, and it's made Laporta effectively a luxury piece for this offense. We know Laporta is a really talented player. We saw it last season, and the Lions are really lucky to have him, and they're obviously really fortunate and appreciative of him being on the roster there, but it's just a matter of there's a lot of mouths to feed in this offense between Amon-Ra, Jameson, Gibbs, and Montgomery are both going to eat every single week, and it makes Laporta effectively he's the 4th or 5th most important piece of this offense if you want to put him ahead or behind Jameson Williams. The way things have gone so far this season, he's basically been the clear 5th option in this offense, and it makes it really tough to trust him on any given week here. He had 1 catch this last week, obviously a 52-yard touchdown on a really fun trick play. Makes him a decent weekly starter this last week, but it was really his first respectable game of the entire season. He's not as involved in the offense as he was because this team's just getting whatever they want done on offense, and they don't need him. So, he's a top 10 tight end probably the rest of the way. The upside case is that maybe Aiden Hutchinson getting injured really makes this defense a lot worse. You need to see even more out of the offense going forward, but they just put up 47 points on the Cowboys, and you only got 1 catch out of Sam Laporta, so there's a lot of reasons to be concerned there. He's still got a huge name. He's coming off of a pretty decent fantasy day, so I still think you can get quite a bit for him, but he's not a guy that I feel like is going to have a monster fantasy season at any point this season, and not a guy that you're definitely not going to get the draft value out of him right now, but I think he's still got the name value coming off of a good game. Now's a good time to get some value out of him before people realize that he's just not all that great for us in fantasy the rest of the way. That'll do it for the sell high candidates this week. Up next, I'll be going over starts and sits, so I'll go over every single game that's going to happen this week, go over pretty much every single fantasy relevant player, and just tell you what I would look to do with them, whether or not they should be in your fantasy lineups, how I expect those games to go, and hopefully just give you a general understanding of how I expect the NFL to play out in Week 7. Stay tuned for that video. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel that way you don't miss that coming up. Click the bell so you get notifications as I put out new videos. There will also be a live stream Sunday morning, 1 hour before the games kick off, so at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 p.m. Eastern time. We'll just, sit down, go through injury updates, help answer some start-sit questions you guys have live, get you guys ready to win in Week 7. So, lots of future content coming out. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you made it this far in the video, please do give it a thumbs up. It helps me out quite a bit. And if you have any questions about trades or any of that, let me know in the comments below. I love helping you guys out and love interacting with you guys there. So, yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time, guys. Peace. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, check out these other videos here if you haven't. If you want more content, please feel free to follow me on Twitter at RealSteelFFB. I'll be more active on there as the season goes on. Thanks. Catch you later.